Picture a new access control rollout that goes live Monday, and by Tuesday morning, the front desk can't badge anyone in. Tenants are stuck. The receptionist is fielding shouted calls, and the vendor says, "We tested it." From an operational standpoint, that moment tells you everything you need to know about the handoff.
That's exactly what we're unpacking today. What went wrong and what to do about it. Welcome to Built, Wired, and Secured. I'm Alex Morgan. Joining me are Michael Harrington and James Rogers to walk through real failures and a compact handoff playbook you can adapt this week.
Good to be here. Those front desk scenes are more common than people think, and they're painful in a way that budgets don't always capture.
Let's jump in. What actually breaks during turnover? Michael, when you trace one of these incidents, where do you start?
Start with ownership. Too often the handoff is treated as a checkbox. Demo done, sign off, invoice paid. But who holds the credentials? Who has the firmware image? Who answers the phone at 2 a.m.? Without named owners and escalation paths, small problems become full outages.
Right, and I'll add documentation quality. Not a folder of PDFs, but usable stuff. Labeled wiring diagrams, a plain language sequence of operations, a one-page recovery flow, and a short critical spares list. If documentation reads like an engineer's lab notebook, crews won't use it under pressure.
So, usable artifacts plus named owners. What about testing? We keep hearing vendor demos aren't enough. How do you make tests meaningful?
Vendor demos show capability in a controlled setting. That's necessary, but not sufficient. Operators need to run acceptance tests in the real environment. Simulate failures, reset credentials, watch failover, and time how long recovery takes. Ask what breaks if this goes down, and then prove the recovery steps.
Wait, what does a proper operator-led test actually look like in a 30-minute window?
Good question. In 30 minutes, you can do 3 things. Have the operator log in and perform routine tasks, run one failover scenario, like a controller reboot, and exercise one recovery step, such as credential reset. Time each step. If the vendor can't support that in the contract, you haven't bought operational certainty. You've bought a demo.
And don't skimp on spares. A labeled bin with 2 or 3 critical spares and a printed recovery one-pager beats waiting for overnight vendor shipping. Put a spare controller, serial adapter, and the matching firmware image on the shelf.
So far, that sounds straightforward, but I'm not sure I buy that vendors will sign up for this without pushback. How do you stop acceptance testing and spare delivery from becoming scope creep?
You make the tests objective and contractual. Define targeted acceptance criteria up front, include them in the contract, and make final payment conditional on operator-signed acceptance. That keeps vendors from being surprised and lets them price the work correctly. It's accountability, not ambush.
Exactly. Contracts set expectations. Ops makes it usable. Also, schedule a 30-day follow-up where operators and the vendor reconvene. That's when invisible issues surface under real load, and you get a chance to fix them quickly.
Give us a short, real example where a tiny handoff change stopped repeat failures.
We had a multi-tenant office where HVA sequences were updated. First winter, evening setback didn't restore properly, and tenants were cold. The fix was simple. A 2-hour operator walkthrough, a one-page failback procedure taped to the BAS panel, and a labeled spare controller on the shelf. Emergency calls dropped by about 80% the next season. Reliability starts with disciplined maintenance.
Contrast that with a camera rollout that had no documented key hierarchy. After a power event, no one knew the break glass account, and recorded footage was inaccessible for days. We then required encrypted credential vault handoff and a documented reset path. Same vendor, next rollout, 0 credential incidents.
Those are powerful because the fixes were cheap and fast. Let's put this into a compact playbook. The 3 non-negotiables you want in every turnover. Michael?
3 things. 1. A turnover checklist tied to acceptance criteria. Named owners, credential handoff, spare list, escalation contacts. 2. Acceptance testing led by operations that includes failure simulations and timed recoveries. 3. A spare and firmware handover. actual firmware images, support account access, and at least one labeled spare critical component.
For usability, make the checklist one page, a 5-minute orientation for the shift crew, 2 vendor contacts, 3 spares on the shelf, and a 1-page recovery flow taped to the panel. Then schedule that 30-day recon to catch things that only show up under real load. Trust the process.
If someone is listening and wants to reduce risk this week, what's the single Monday action?
Ask for one clarifying item from your most recent closeout, a named operations lead, and an emergency credential reset procedure. If you don't get it within a day, escalate. That detail prevents the majority of early incidents.
And while you're at it, build the spare kit. Put a labeled bin in the storeroom with the spare controller, the serial cable, firmware file on a USB, and the 1-page recovery flow. Tell the techs where it is. That small step pays back fast.
We touched earlier on the friction between owners and ops. Are contracts and operator usability mutually exclusive, or do we combine them?
They're complementary. Contracts set objective tests so vendors plan for them. Ops enforces usability with one-pagers, spares, and the 30-day checkpoint. Put both in place and surprises drop dramatically.
Couldn't agree more. Contracts get you the work, Ops makes it stick.
Quick recap. This week, demand a named ops owner and an emergency credential reset procedure. This quarter, institutionalize operator-led acceptance testing and a labeled spare kit. At procurement, bake objective acceptance criteria and a 30-day follow-up into contracts. Do those 3 things and you change the outcome for new systems. If you'd like the sample Handoff Playbook, a 1-page turnover checklist, an operator acceptance test template, and a starter spare parts list, download it at builtwiredsecured.gds/playbook or visit the Built, Wired, and Secured resources page. Interested in a short pilot workshop to adapt this to your portfolio? Contact GDS Technology and they'll help you run a focused pilot. Built to last, wired with intention, secured for the real world.
Small changes early. Pay off. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Alex. Remember, the best day in operations is the one nobody notices.
That wraps up this episode of Built, Wired, and Secured. Today, we landed on practical, low-cost steps to prevent day one disasters and speed recovery when things go wrong. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us. Until next time, make sure the systems you're responsible for are built to last, wired with intention, and secured for the real world.